What up, YouTube Elleix? Come back at you with another custom StarCraft cast. Today, we have another one featuring the Cosmonarchy mod. For those of you not aware of this mod, it basically creates an entirely new game within Brood War, and today it's a code cast featuring Pronogo, the developer of this mod. Pronogo, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, Elleix. Always a pleasure to be on the channel, and I do appreciate that. Another pleasure here is that we're casting a Z mirror, Zerg versus Zerg. Not only that, well, we've got the new hotness, Swarmlord. He kind of goes by multiple names, but one of them being Swarmlord. And he is our player in the top right, going up against Art of Turtle, a homie who's been around the Brood War scene for so long, recently-ish discovered Cosmonarchy maybe about like a year ago, and has been singing its praises, as well as being a diehard StarCraft 1 player. Like, if anybody who watches your channel knows the StarCraft 1 Pro League in the North America and stuff like that, they're going to recognize Art of Turtle. He's been around for a hot minute. So, like a legend guy, you know, just a legend. And then, you know, there's Swarmlord, who's a legend in the making, maybe, from Australia. So, shout out to both those players.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm excited to see this one. It's been way too long since we've done a Cosmonarchy cast, and like you said, a ZVZ, which I'm not entirely sure if I've done on my channel just yet, so it should be a great one today. And this one isn't part of any tournament, but you also mentioned behind the scenes that there is a tournament happening very soon for the Cosmonarchy mod.
Yep, that's correct. We have Acropolis, which is like our mainline event, so sort of our label that we put big tournaments only on. If you see Acropolis in front of it, it's a big tournament match with stakes and everything. And, you know, the thing about Acropolis is that our last tournament with it, Acropolis number 2, it had a $1,500 prize pool, which I think is pretty sweet. I have no idea if we're going to get to those heights again, but if we do, or if we even get close to it, you know, it's not just for fun, primarily for fun. But you know, if you win it, you got what, $500, $600 out of the last one. It's pretty solid. So I highly recommend people sign up. The qualifiers are open by the time you'll see this video. So definitely one of those things to check out. Now, before I even say anything else, though, we do have an attack coming because Art of Turtle is a bit of an aggro player, and he's rushing, including being able to maybe put down an offensive structure here. He's unloaded one of his K-Grunt Seas against the Creep Colony equivalent.
Oh, wow, and just in time, the Zeth Rockers, right? Yep, the Zeth Rockers are Zergling equivalents coming out for Swarmlord and chasing the other Zergling equivalents away, but that was looking really scary. For a second, I thought that was it for the replay, but no, it looks like the game will continue, and a Hatcherosk, or a hatchery equivalent for Swarmlord as well, coming down in the natural base location, so he's not too scared, it looks like. You know, I would be too scared to expand at this point. After seeing that, I would already choke. I don't work well under pressure. So good to see that he's not scared of that harassment, and looking like Art of Turtle running back home, deciding, hey, maybe I'll match the macro style, going for an expansion of his own. One thing I noticed with Cosmonarchy is expansions seem to get taken slower than in vanilla StarCraft, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like most of the time that is true, and that mostly is because there's a little bit more scouting you have to do before you know exactly what your response needs to be. There's certain openings that do give you some safety, but very rarely will you do hatch first. That being said, very recently, one of our Zerg specialists, a guy who is explicitly really good at Zerg versus Zerg in particular, has been practicing hatch first, even versus Terran. So I'm interested in seeing how that goes. But in this particular matchup, yeah, absolutely. Even Swarmlord with a faster expansion, he did go for a pool first. So you won't always see hatch first. It's very rare in Cosmonarchy. But hey, the faster hatch here does mean that even though Swarmlord lost some larvae early on, he's still okay. Like, he's only down 2 workers. He's going to go for Hatcherosks instead of the Larvosks, so he's going to have more Vespene to spend on units or tech. And that does give him the same level of larva production. So he's not behind in any really meaningful way, despite losing a little bit of tempo early on to that attack.
Gotcha. And you mentioned that there are 2 larva-producing structures. Is that right for the Zerg and the Cosmonarchy
That's right,
mod?
yeah. The smaller one is actually visible in Swarmlord's base right next to his macro hatch. You'll see in that main base the Larvosk. It's like a creep colony that mutates into something that then puts out the larva, which ends up being pretty good. It does require a lot of Vespene, and it's more brittle. So it's more of an early game tempo thing because you don't need the gas caps in order to harvest Vespene from the geyser in the ridge. So it ends up being a little bit more useful as far as that early game tempo if you're trying to go straight into some more aggressive stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. That's really cool. That's a cool idea, adding more kind of macro options for the Zerg. So you have, like you said, this kind of more brittle larva-producing structure, but also you still have the hatchery as an option, which adds some more diverse options for play, I think.
It's worked out that way, which I'm certainly pleased with, because I like not knowing which one is de facto the best one. You know, it's very situational. Most people will always stand by opening with the Larvosk, but whether you stick with multiple after that or you go for an expansion with the Hatcherosk is something that is remained to be seen. It's very situational based on what you scout. And speaking of scouting, Art of Turtle has been doing a pretty good job of that. One of his Ovileths did end up getting taken out by the Quasilisks, those little, you could think of them as ranged Zerglings almost. That's sometimes what they're called. Swarmlord ended up picking that one apart. But Art of Turtle knows what his opponent is doing, and I don't know that you can say the same for Swarmlord. He does seem to be a little bit more blind. He does, at the very least, know that there's an expansion, but he doesn't really know the complexion of the tech, and he's trying to take a third base, which Art of Turtle is aware of.
Nice, yeah. Art of Turtle, I mean, both players honestly having some pretty decent map control, but like you said, Art of Turtle having a little more knowledge of what his opponent is doing. Either way, at the very least, the Hatcherosk is safe for now, but I'm sure that will be on Art of Turtle's radar later on, especially considering that he doesn't have a third hatchery on the way, or Hatcherosk, I should say, on the way just yet. It looks like maybe opting for that two-base play. And here are the Quasilisks that you mentioned running to the left side where the map ends. And finally, looks like they're actually patrolling right now in the natural base location, but nothing too crazy happening just yet. One thing I also want to mention to those of you who are not familiar with the Cosmonarchy mod is the mechanics are way different. As we can see in the natural base location, these drones are harvesting Vespene off of a raw geyser, so you do not actually have to build any sort of structure, but you can build structures to harvest more gas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it increases the yield. So right now it says Vespene per return on the geyser. It'll say 5 in the bottom right. And when you put a structure on top of that, which is enabled by tier 2, it'll turn to 7. You can cap the ridge, which is basically something that you see for the Escagant. Don't worry, it's a mouthful, but it's in Swarmlord's main base there. And right next to that, actually, part of the reason why he's able to afford his tier 2, the Iral Iris, that's coming up here pretty soon. I know you were saying earlier that's screenshot fodder for you.
Oh, it is.
And that structure is coming up. And so that is actually one of the things that Swarmlord is a specialist in, is finding these sleeper timings to go tier 2, because it's 900 Vespene. So it's not something that's super easy to deal with there, but it is up. And now let's see what he ends up going for as far as the tech. Behind that, Art of Turtle has been making Bactylisks. They're sort of like a tier 1 power spike unit morphed from the Hydralisk. And they did require him to upgrade his Hydrath Den, which you can see in his main base there, that funky looking yellow structure. And it's a little bit like a parallel reality version of the Hydrath Den, which in many ways you could say about Cosmonarchy overall.
Oh yeah, I recall when I was playing the campaign that the Iral Iris, it was staggering how much money it cost, but it looked so cool I wanted to do it anyway, because like you said, it is fodder. It's thumbnail fodder, absolutely. But it looks like Art of Turtle coming in for the attack at base number 3, but there's a lot of stuff here for Swarmlord as well to defend.
Well, ZVZ is a great matchup to know that for sure Cosmonarchy has a raised selection limit compared to StarCraft 1. There's so many units, and I'm honestly going to be straight with you guys. This is a little bit more of a laid-back, macro-oriented match. The worker count is a lot closer. That's in the top right. You'll see worker count over military. The worker count is a lot closer to the military than what normally happens with Zerg. The fact that they're both kind of relatively even, obviously Swarmlord is behind in terms of workers, but he just made a big old bunch of them, so he caught up pretty quickly. That's just one of those things that tells you, okay, these Zerg aren't going full throttle on the military. When it does, you'll see 200, 300 military units for one player. It's glorious.
Oh, I hope we get to see that. I mean, like you said, it looks like this is a more macro-oriented match. It seems more chill, so it'll be interesting to see just how much these armies explode with the economy. I mean, base number 3 is already finished for Art of Turtle as well, so both players on 3 bases right now.
No tier 2 for Art of Turtle yet, and the Mutat Spire is what was selected by Swarmlord. Now, obviously, that gives him Mutalisks, and everybody knows the Spire equals Mutalisk. It has Muta in the name. But there's another unit that it adds. It's a little dino-looking unit that is spawned from the 3rd base here for Swarmlord. It's the Sikralisk. This bad boy does AoE, like splash damage, around it. So it's really, really good versus things like Zethrakors, those Zergling equivalents. Obviously, the Quasilisks are going to suffer versus them as well. But there's a very defensive location here for Art of Turtle because he's got the Khazitrit Cesium, which gives you that cloning of attacks. You may recall we saw that in 2v2 earlier on your channel. But as Art of Turtle leaves the base, this becomes a lot worse for him in terms of the fight. Swarmlord's tech is about to be leveraged.
Wow, so Swarmlord, I don't know if he realized that the tech was there for Art of Turtle to double that attack, but kind of kiting his opponent out of the defensive position. But this is still looking like a really scary army for Art of Turtle, and the Sikralisks running, it looks like back, not necessarily back home, but back to the support of more units coming in for Swarmlord.
Yeah, working out pretty well. So the Bactylisks are kind of like a mid-range / artillery style of unit for Art of Turtle. They're doing a lot of work because if you're far away from them, if their projectile travels a farther distance, it actually bounces additional times. Whereas if you close in with melee, like what Swarmlord is trying to do, it will negate the bounces and make them deal way less damage.
Oh, wow. This is looking like a really good engagement for Swarmlord, actually. Well, I say that, but I totally missed all the Bactylisks on the left-hand side of that engagement. So I think Art of Turtle actually coming out a little bit ahead, but this is close to the home of Swarmlord with all these Zerg Circuit Cesians to help defend if he needs them. So it seems like both players are really evenly matched for the time being.
Swarmlord just tried to do a drop in the bottom left of Art of Turtle's main, but it didn't end up working out because he's still patrolling defensive units. There is a 4th base up for Swarmlord, and it's sort of mining. There's a lot of idle workers there he's got to task. But as soon as he does, he's going to have a real influx of money, and he's also still leveraging higher tech. A Matraval Nest on the way. That's another tech node only afforded to you if you have Tier 2, which Art of Turtle still doesn't have.
Oh, interesting. So what do you think Art of Turtle's plan is here? Is he just trying to save some money, or is it possible that he just simply can't afford going to like Tier 2 and Tier 3 at this point in the game? Or
it's kind of interesting because he capped his ridge in the 3rd base as well as in the natural, but he's not saturated his gases in the 3rd, and he's not capped the ridge in the main. So even though he's doing a really good move by shutting down the 4th base here at 12 o'clock, Swarmlord is going to have a little bit of response here. He should be able to gut these Hydras that are attacking his 3rd and then potentially push out for a win.
Wow, and here we go. Base number 4 going down, but these Sikralisks doing a ton of damage to the Hydralisks, but this also kind of puts Swarmlord in a bit of a rough position given the fact that there is an army right next to base number 3.
This is pretty scary. I mean, he just sent a lot of Zetracors out, and they got cleaned up by the Hydras of Art of Turtle. He was trying to backstab and go for a 4th base. Now he's going to go for a surround instead, and this could actually be really big. He's got another round of units spawning in his bases at the same time as he's descending with a backstab.
Oh, and here we go. It's possible Art of Turtle has overextended just a little bit, but this army on the left-hand side is doing a lot to clean up Swarmlord's stuff. Swarmlord has a lot of stuff back home at the 3rd base location, though, but this surround by Art of Turtle is looking really scary. But we also got the Vilgurokers, I hope I said that correctly, for Swarmlord, and it looks like they're doing a ton of work.
Every time the Vilgorokor gets hit, it releases this Carapace Swarm, that little orange cloud, absorbing up to 200 damage. So over time, that's going to really stack up your front line, and melee units are immune to it, so it's only negating the ranged damage of the enemies. More Hydras are here, though. There's so many Hydras from Art of Turtle. He wants to end this game in Tier 1.
Wow. But these Vilgurokers, like you said, doing a lot of work at negating some of this ranged damage, but these Hydras, there's just so many of them that I'm not sure if Swarmlord has what it takes to save base number 3.
Oh, here we go, though. Convalisks are out, Elleix, and those bad puppies, they spawn broodlings on your victims, on the enemies that they attack. You're going to see it in action here with the Hydras, and it's just going to slow things down because when the broodlings die, the Rillarokors as they're called, they actually create ensnare on the location. And that means that you're moving slower, you're attacking slower.
Wow, and they look so cool, too. The Convalisk. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, sick. But
there you go.
What is this unit model? Is this a custom one, or is this from any other game?
It's actually from a Hungarian expansion pack, and it's not an
Oh.
official licensed one. It's called Huncraft. The walk animation could use a little bit of love. At some point, we will replace it, but yeah, it's a model sourced from basically another mod that was attempted to be licensed at one point and just didn't end up happening.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was a Hungarian-only one that was eventually translated by one of the fans, and during that process, we got access to the models there, so it worked out.
That's super cool. I didn't even know about that mod, and I'm the mod guy, so
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many get slipped under the radar. People were obviously, in the first time you showed that Cosmonarchy, they were talking about other mods like Burning Ground and stuff. But we do have a 12 o'clock and a 9 o'clock shutdown, or 3 o'clock shutdown, excuse me. Both the top middle and the mid right have been shut down by Art of Turtle. He is controlling the pace of the game, but I worry that Swarmlord's tech advantage is going to get too daunting.
yeah, it's possible with that tech advantage that he's just going to snowball out of control. I mean, you know, the Hydralisks are doing a lot of work, but if you start matching your opponent's army supply, but the tech is tier 3 versus tier 1, I'm not really sure if Art of Turtle will be able to keep up. Right now, he's doing a great job, though, but a lot of Zerglings coming in to base what looks like base number 3 for Art of Turtle. And base number 4.
He never really saturated his third, and he just lost his fourth at 6. Yeah, this is looking suddenly like a big swing where I think AOT will run out of steam. At the very least, he did double down and force a shutdown of 12 o'clock. So it is 3 base versus 4 base, and the worker count is favoring AOT right now. But I don't know that he's going to be able to keep pushing. Especially Swarmlord borrowed a bunch of Zethra-cores off at 6 o'clock, so if he tries to retake that at some point, he could just unburrow and pick that base. This is really deadly, potentially.
Oh, yeah, and Swarmlord doing a great job at keeping up with the legend that is AOT. But this army here in the middle is now looking scary once again. I'm really curious to see how this tech matches up against the sheer amount of Hydralisks that we're seeing.
There's 46 of them in this fight, let alone the Bactylisks that are going to do good crowd control damage. And not much of a front line here. The Vilgoricors were kind of stuck behind the mid-range units, and now Swarmlord's army is going to start to fall despite how effective that ensnare debuff is. He is going to try to push in at the third base at the same time, but it's not going to be successful. Standing vigil, some Drolets, unfortunately, the workers kind of rallying into the wrong spot for Swarmlord.
Oh, no. And here we go. What is this? It looks like base number 4, is that right? Maybe base number 5. Yeah. I kind of lost count, but it's looking really rough here for Swarmlord. But a lot of these Hydras going down still. We'll see. We'll see if he can hold.
It's rough. Even with the ensnare, AOT still pushed forward and used his Hydras to he right-clicked on those Convolisks, and they eventually did blow up. There's more reinforcements coming, but I'm not so sure it matters at this point because 12 o'clock is going to go down. This is really still back and forth an active game, despite the fact that Swarmlord has been at tier 2 for, 10 minutes now, and Art of Turtle refuses to build the Iris. He has enough money, he just refuses to make it.
Yeah, at this point, it seems like he's trying to make a point out of it. He's like, hey, look, everyone who complains about balance. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, yeah, I can win in tier 1, I promise. And then, 17 minutes later, okay, maybe not, maybe not.
He's like,
so at this point, we can actually talk. Yeah, we can talk about depletion mechanics now, which is not something we get to see in every game. But if you look at the main bases, you're going to see those mineral fields looking a little bit worse for wear. While they still have the same yield, 5 minerals per return, the rate of resources is, the rate of harvest is much slower. And with Swarmlord losing 12 o'clock yet again, I mean, at some point, it gets to the position where you don't really have that much available to you as either player. So you're going to have to start to see a little bit more economy, a little bit more, I would say, thoughtful use of your units. And we can see Swarmlord having those thoughts because he cannot contest this army as much as he would like to because it's in a compromised position. It's still awkward for him. He can't really commit to that fight. He needs to wait for his Zethra-cores to do something else across the map where Art of Turtle hasn't even set up his 4th base yet.
Oh, yeah, and a lot of draw lists here kind of caught out of position, it looks like, or potentially will be caught out of position if these draw lists, or sorry, not draw lists, the Zeth-Rockers catch the draw lists. But we'll see here. There's a lot of defense, though, or a decent amount of defense for AOT down here at the 4th base location.
It's a good right click from Swarmlord, though. He right-clicks that Hatcherosk. It ends up going down. So the Zethra-cores will burrow yet again. No detection here for Art of Turtle, despite how late in the game it is. His tier 2 choice is going to actually be the Tethvith Swamp, which means he can upgrade those Izira-cores, those bony two-legged guys that have been walking around that were defending that 4th base. Those guys can get upgraded into the Tetzoricor, which is basically just a spinning blade man. Like it does a AoE cleave attack. It's
cool.
Pretty powerful as far as a tanking unit is concerned. But then you also have the Vithrilisk. Not really an important unit here. It's the Devourer from StarCraft 1. It's anti-air, and there hasn't really been any air switches yet. But Swarmlord might be thinking about it. He's making the Zorkish Shroud, which will give him access to Gorgakors, affectionately known as flying Ultralisks. So there's still more tech being used here, and I love the fact that despite being at tier 2, they've gone for entirely divergent tech paths. Like they do not have that many of the same unit right now.
Right, and you also mentioned that there's just a ridiculous amount of units in Cosmonarchy. I remember that, so it's cool to see that they're actually going for divergent tech paths. Here we go, the Obelisks running away, but I like the placement.
He was evolving those. He's going for the Iroliths, and he was basically trying to do a big Zethricore drop, trying to like doom drop his enemy's base. Instead, he's kind of led him to a secret base in the bottom right, so that ended up not being the best of move. And even then, the transports basically died. He still snuck one out. Maybe it'll be impactful.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like the placement of these sneaky bases, but unfortunately, kind of giving himself away. This base will go down. And we don't see any retaliation from Swarmlord at this point. Looks like maybe he's preparing to protect the next base. As you said, even though the bases aren't necessarily useless towards the end of the game, it's still important to have a good economy and a fresh mineral patch. So it makes sense that he's trying to kind of post up at, what is this, probably base number 5 at this point. The right-hand side of the map.
Yeah, it's his 4th active one, but it is definitely, like, that would be 5 or 6 or something like that. Looks like he did get some Zethicores into the natural of Art of Turtle, but they just get chewed up. Art of Turtle's done a great job continuously having his units on patrol, despite the fact that, like, at this point in the game, you might have thought, I need every one of my units. You know, if you're StarCraft 2 or something, you click F2, send all my army in. But not Art of Turtle. He's going to stick it out and just keep patrolling for those drops. He knows Swarmlord's style.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. If you know your opponent's play style, you know maybe how to adapt your play. But, yeah, also a great job with that map control, patrolling those units. And now it looks like going for that base number 5, really the 4th mining base, as you said. We'll see if Swarmlord can protect this.
But Tetzoricor is coming in from the bottom. They are going to lifesteal a lot. And remember, if they cleave attack for splash damage, they're going to lifesteal even more because they're doing even more damage. They will be doing damage through the Carapace Swarm as well, that orange cloud. Not going to protect versus melee, but it does look like Swarmlord's done enough, especially with reinforcements coming in. He hasn't actually lost that much in this fight.
Yeah, he's doing a actually great job defending and keeping all these units kind of far away from the Hatcherosk and keeping his workers safe. So, all things considered, this engagement looks pretty good for Swarmlord.
Another thing to point out, the Ultralisk equivalent will be on the field. It's called Ultracore here, but you can call it whatever you like because it is a machine. Not only does it also have lifesteal instead of, you know, necessarily just upfront damage, it's going to move a bit slow when you first see it, right? We're seeing some in Swarmlord's 5th base there, but when it consumes a corpse, it will start to move much faster and attack faster, and that kind of rampaging effect means that it's just going to be unkillable if it sticks to your army.
Okay, so bit of technical difficulties, but we are back. My version of the game decided to go to an entirely different dimension where we were looking at like 11 grand for Swarmlord and maybe 12 grand for AOT on the mineral count, which was way off. Good catch, Pronogo.
Oh, yeah. All good, all good. Now that we're back in business, we can talk about this attack that's going to swing on down. Looking at it, I mean, obviously the Ultracores, big power unit here for Swarmlord. He's going to have access to all kinds of lifesteal and sustain if they can actually get down the ramp. And right now it's looking a little bit hard for him as AOT going to try to defend his 4th base.
And this is looking like a really scary army. All these mutas for AOT coming in to defend this at base number 4.
Oh yeah, that's a big swing right there. I mean, there's not that much anti-air here. The Protathalors can help out, but all the big bulky dudes on the ground, they're just going to get pelted to death, it feels like. I don't think you can lifesteal out of that, but you can see the Ultracores trying to get away. It's still going to end up going poorly, it looks like, for Swarmlord. Now, behind this, he's making 26 pairs of Sikralisks, so that's going to be quite a healthy amount of AoE. The problem is, I don't think that splash-wise it's going to be quite enough. At least not mobile. You know, he's going to burrow his workers over here so he can try to save them, but this base looks like it's about to get shellacked.
Oh yeah, this base is looking like it will be no more, especially with that Hydralisk support on the back of all these mutas. And here we go, a huge engagement at that 4th base location, 4th/5th base location. I'm not even counting anymore. But
yeah, who's counting? Certainly not Swarmlord. He's lost him so many times. He probably lost count himself. Now, I will credit Art of Turtle here. He actually pulled his mutas away from the Sicrilisks because he knew the splash damage would just massacre them. However, they're still pretty good versus Hydras and even Bactylisks. So I do think that Swarmlord's going to dominantly crush this engage on the ground. Problem is, there's reinforcements going, and the mutas have struck. They've actually synced up with even more. There's 52 mutas, Elleix, absolutely massacring 12 o'clock while the third base gets under duress.
Wow, the forked attack from AOT is outrageous, and then the mutas coming in to help out the main army. Oh no, Swarmlord
here to support. Yeah, it does look like he's going to be struggling on the struggle bus. He's making some Zarkavra cores. I guess that helps out a little bit, but not in enough number. I mean, there's 52 of these bad boys.
Yeah, 52 mutas. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen that many mutas in a Brood War game, at least not in a recent Brood War game, but they have made it into the main base, and they're taking out a lot of the tech for Swarmlord, which is looking unfortunate. That Iroll Iris, though, is still alive.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it's out of harm's way for now. The Zarkavra cores come out. They're big, tanky boys that deal splash damage to the sky. Very good unit to use here, but only 3 of them. They get gunned down immediately. Here come the Sicrilisks. Those do splash damage, and right now, AOT's got to get out of dodge. He's going to try to stick for the Ultra Cavern. I think this is going to be a bit of a greed.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if he's going to be able to attack it without losing all these mutas. All that splash damage for Nogo.
Wild. There's 1 left out of 52. 1 survives. He has a very scary story to tell. Now, there's some mining happening over here at this base. There's a little bit of anti-surface defense left for Swarmlord. He's not out of this yet, but it looks like AOT might be able to finish the job. It took him a while. He did need tier 2 for it after all, but I think he might be able to push for the win.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like you said, that Muta does have a very scary story to tell. None of his Zerg brothers will believe him, but this is still looking kind of scary. I mean, we still have a lot of Hydralisks, but that splash damage from Swarmlord is also really scary. Taking a look at the worker count, though, AOT, what is that? 111 workers to 62,
yes.
So the economy is way in favor for our purple Zerg player.
Oh, yeah. It's like big time there. And the Sicrilisks are doing their best. They're putting up a valiant effort, but the Spire was destroyed, so they can't make any more. Swarmlord's basically down to no money. He just panned over his base, seeing any other assets he might have. You can see the camera on the minimap searching in desperation, but the Hydras will pounce upon that unprotected base. It's really only a couple of Ultra Cores left. They're good units. They're good units, but I don't know if they're this good, Elleix.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to handle this, especially with the potential error coming out from AOT if he decides to go for another outrageous amount of mutas. But yeah, these Ultra Cores, they will make a valiant attempt, but like you said, I'm not entirely sure this is enough.
No, I mean, they do really good lifesteal. The problem is they're up against other guys that do lifesteal, and there were no corpsers nearby to actually like consume to get that extra little bit of oomph behind them that they needed. And yeah, with the Hydras focusing them down, GG is called. Well, a very long ZVZ. We love those.
That was awesome. That was a really awesome ZVZ, and great valiant effort by Swarmlord, but what a sick game. If you guys enjoyed what you saw, please consider shooting me a like and subscribe. Pronogo, I will leave his channel in the description as well. He does casting of his own. Go ahead and show his channel some love. And if you guys want me to cast any of your own games, I will leave my email in the description below. Pronogo, do you have parting words?
Listen, those 2 guys have yet to sign up for Acropolis number 3's qualifiers, and I think they are a shoe-in for some of the higher level of competition, so I really hope to see them. But I hope to see some of the viewers of this video also give it an attempt, or at the very least tune in when we end up going live with those coverages. So thanks again for having me on, and congratulations to Art Turtle for clutching out that ZVZ.
Always a pleasure, Pronogo. We'll see you guys on the next one.